everything we found from the nighttime and the daytime investigations pointed to this negative energy that we called a shapeshifter
Yeah.
that was basically, I'll call, terrorizing the family. It was going after the young children and going after the mom. And we documented it. We had a fair amount of evidence. We had those EVPs we captured during the daytime. We had Liz's reports from a distance and on site. So yeah, we wanted to go ahead and give the feedback in terms of the reveal to the client that her concern was, is this really happening? And yeah, it was really happening. We did that over a Zoom, and we sent evidence, and we sent the overall presentation deck back to her. And then she asked the question, well, what do I do now? And so we decided to, when there was an opportunity for us to go off and do a cleansing and basically a banishing and seal of the portal to get rid of that entity.
Yes, I wanted you to come out and bless the land, cleanse the land, just try to rid it of any negativity, just try to make it feel like a safe home to be in and a safe area to be in. You know, I didn't want to be frightened to be in my backyard or feel like something's over my shoulder constantly. So I was hoping that, you know, going forward, it would be that we would solve the problem. We would eliminate whatever entity was here, or, you know, if we found that they were, you know, positive entities, at least find, you know, how we could help them move on, or what their purpose was, and how we could live, you know, together without it affecting the sleep, affecting moods, affecting everything, and just being ultimately petrifying. So yeah, so we chose to have you come out and cleanse the land.
But as I mentioned, the pandemic had really just started up in intensity, and we didn't have the opportunity to go on site again. So I had put together a protection oil and sent to her. I had some cleansing incense that I put together and sent to her. And then there was a protection tea that she could mix and drink, and I gave her the ingredients, and she had to go buy some additional ingredients, but she did, and she put this tea together, and she had the protection oil, the incense, the protection tea, and I also sent up some amulets for her and for the kids. So that was a stopgap in terms of what we could offer in terms of protection until we could go up and actually do some on-site work.
Prior to you coming, earlier that day, the friend that I had mentioned that is sensitive to these feelings, she was standing in the kitchen, and I was in a room that she was able to see me clearly. She saw the other adult behind me and thought nothing of it. We were all, the three of us were just standing there. And then moments later, she saw him in the living room, which he would have had to pass her in the kitchen to even get to.
This is the other adult.
Yes. So now all three of us are in the house. She is all of a sudden freaking out, essentially. What is going on? I can't believe, how did you get there? Have you been there the whole time? He had been in the living room the entire time, and she had seen this essentially projection of him. It didn't have his clear facial expressions to say that, yes, that was him for certain, but she said it was about his height, his build, just standing there pacing between the windows in that room from side to side of that room, pacing, seeming anxious, uncertain, just this like kind of, she just had a negative feeling about it, like a uneasy feeling, like a feeling of being stuck, a feeling of, you know, this is what it is, accept it, essentially. So it was a frightening thing to have her have that the afternoon you were coming.
One of my concerns was that it felt as if this energy's main goal was to create some sort of chaos and
Yeah.
disruption.
Mhm.
And so, Lance and Mary talked about the kids being of their primary concern, which, launched the investigation. I mirrored that and then some. I think the whole family was vulnerable to being affected in not very positive ways by this. So the empowerment piece was really the antidote on a lot of levels.
I truly believe there was a negative entity involved. And I think it was introducing chaos to feed off their energy. Primary part of the ritual was to have the client play a key part because her energy is the most important energy in terms of making this happen. Her energy and her intent.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do a cleansing inside the house.
Okay.
We all have a part in it. She has the biggest part. It's her house.
Yeah.
And as I told her, and before we get started, I'm going to give us some all protection oil. As I told her, the big part about this is the intention. Intention is everything.
Yep.
We live or die by intention. So tonight we're going to set the intent that the house is cleared. When we go out, we're going to do a ritual outside around the space to banish the entity and to seal the access the entity has. Okay. So Mary, let's see.
Yes, ma'am.
What I'd like for you to do is as we go, I'm going to have you put incense in here like this. And we'll be moving through the house. We're going to go to the bottom. We're going to start for the first one, which is this. And we'll just see how smoky it gets. So this is what we're going to say for this round. I consecrate this home with fire and air, and then we'll go off and we'll do it again. I consecrate this home with water and earth, which will be the salt water here.
So I felt as we were in the house, towards the far right of the house, I felt that it was an uncomfortable feeling. I felt
Is that a specific location out in the property?
just in the house,
Okay.
on the top floor in the playroom.
Yep.
I felt that, it didn't feel right. It felt like as we were walking in there, we weren't supposed to be there. At that time, Liz had just put her hand on my shoulder to give me, extra support, extra
Right.
positivity, and right as she did that, she felt me shudder, and gasp. I gasped, she shuddered, and then Lance's camera got all wacky, and he described it as essentially looking like heat waves, which was
Right.
strange to happen in a house.
Right.
Do you mind if I put my hand on your back when you say that? Okay. So you're just gonna feel it's gonna be me.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
I feel little
I just
touches.
want to give you a little extra oomph
Thank you.
behind that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna head down this way, guys.
You might be pissing something off. Camera just went crazy and gave you an error message and then came back into focus.
This is the.
Did you just hear my deep breath right before he said that?
And I got the goosies,
Yeah.
so I'm with. Got your back up here.
Thank you. I consecrate this home with fire and air.
And again.
I consecrate this home with fire and air.
I banish you from this space. Access against you, ever coming through again. Finishing with blessed salt. Final sealing process. Close house and the family are secure in the future. Hail and farewell. Creator and destroyer, that which brings change. Thank you for bringing your energy to our work tonight and returning this individual's house to her and her family. Hail and farewell.
So, let me ask you this. Do I have a mark on my elbow? I don't know. It started burning on that last little bit there.
It was, I think that since the cleanse, I think it really doesn't have the strength that it did before. I think a lot of it is my mindset too. If I am fearing it, it's going to grow. It's going to, you know, this is just my personal opinion, but my belief is that if I'm scared of it, it's going to feed off of that. Right. If I say, we have, you know, we've got this, we are going to make this okay. Yes, I know you're here, but we need to live our, or not live our separate lives, but you do your thing, I'll do mine. We can both coincide in this home and yard, but stay out of each other's way. That is what I would like it to be. But I think with that mindset of, okay, we can coincide together, but I'm over it. I don't want this. I don't want it to still be here if it's going to toy with me. So I think now it's more a feeling of frustration as opposed to fear. And I think that that also helps with its ability to mess with me. If it's not feeding off of my fear, then it's not as active.
She was very confident in what she was doing and claiming her space and what her future plans were, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So she was a very different person than the first initial visit.
Felt she was on the right path. She had the tools to do it. And knowing that it would help her and her children, she was more than willing to do it.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that her and her daughter are intuitively inclined. Like there's no doubt. And potentially even the son too, I felt to be very sensitive. So you have at least 3 of 4 people living in the home sensitive to feeling this. Like empowerment is everything. And to be teaching those kids that they have the ability to reclaim their space too, I think was just such a valuable takeaway. And I think to me, like that's the happy ending to this story, is I think we were able to bring her kind of through this whole journey, as well as ourselves. We all came out of this journey being more empowered in the end. And I certainly am now much more empowered with how I approach, you know, the work that we're doing together. And that is a lesson I will not ever forget.
Right.
Yeah, it was an interesting time, and I think I totally agree. I think we learned a lot. We experienced an investigation that we typically don't, and I think we did a lot of positive good for the client and her family.
Yeah.
Just, it was incredible to have you able to come here and able to validate my, you know, just validate and rationalize that these things are real. Since you have become involved, I feel that I have come a long way as a person dealing with this, that it's easier on me to be able to handle it because you're giving me the tools to do so. You're there as a support. So I think that my fear is significantly less, and it's, I don't know, I'm just so grateful that you have come. Thank you.
She developed what she needed to do in order to reclaim the space and protect herself to get rid of that entity. She reported an improvement. There were a couple instances, but nothing like it was before. And she was in fact also changing her life based on what she had experienced and what she felt like she needed to do in terms of personal relationships. So it was, I think, a positive impact and a positive effect. Any final thoughts?
If you were to do it all over again, would you do anything differently?
I would have wanted to go back pretty quickly to implement a change.
It's also really fascinating, right? The time that it took to complete this
Oh yeah.
with her, with the virus coming in, almost as if it were part of this energy's plan to be like,
Yeah.
come in and now you can't do anything about it, right?
Right.
It almost could be seen in that framework.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I do want to say though, at the library, I think she was very impressed with the presentation. And because she thought she was crazy, she felt comfortable in telling us based on what we were presenting. And just having the confidence in us to ask us to do this was probably really, really big for her, because the believability part was huge. Somebody else would have probably just blown her off and said, okay, and not done anything. But yeah, the learning for me was, I need to not make a judgment call just because her claims were really off the wall.
You know, leaving sentiments with her around how important her walking in the light of empowerment rather than the darkness of fear, because that darkness of fear would be the perfect breeding ground for this energy to continue to play with them. And so empowerment was really the key in terms of what I felt, and it seems like also in terms of the ritual that you developed for the home and the residents. That was everything, right? Is to empower her back to taking ownership of this home and claim it as hers, and no longer allow her fear or even her curiosity, which I do think played a big role, as I think it would anybody, you know, be so curious, like, what is this? So that empowerment piece, I think, is a really important point to make, that she and hopefully the rest of the family plays a really strong role in making sure that this doesn't affect them in the way that I felt was quite possible.
That's when you're going to get a lot of energy, because they want you to know they're there. They want to mess with you.
Yeah.
And then when you go to another home and you just get either nothing, doesn't mean there isn't paranormal. It's just that it isn't happening that day. And
Right.
they're not in a big rush to let us know that they're there.
You know what we did a good process. It was like, even though there's definitely an interesting case when we initially talked to her, but we went out and did in a very systematic way, collecting evidence. We're trying to determine what we could do and what really is there. And again, from the very first visit that night, I knew there was something there. I knew there was like energy there that didn't want us to interact, didn't want us to be there. It didn't want the medium to be that initial night, because it saw, I think, us collectively as a threat that would make it eventually move on.
Lance, would you have done anything different in hindsight?
Personally, no. I agree with Mike. I think it was all very systematic, and and we didn't just show up there. We had a plan on what we were doing when we were showing up. We got past our equipment malfunctions and battery drains and bad audio, and we managed to get it done. So I think going in with a plan was a good thing.
I mean, I think ultimately, like, we were there for a job and we completed that.
Yeah. I know many paranormal investigation teams aren't or don't have a medium. And I have always thought a medium is not only important, but it's an essential part of really doing a top-notch investigation, and definitely feel that way after doing the case up at that house.
Well, I'll say most mediums don't have a paranormal team with equipment. So I'm with you. I'm like, and vice versa. I think, you know, having your experiences both personally and then also with what you've received on the technology is just like outstanding and mind-blowing to a medium. So it's a really nice partnership.
It is. We like it. I hope you, our spooky friends, enjoy the story. And Liz, any final comments from you?
I think, you know, again, the takeaway is everything is changeable. So if there's a situation happening in your world, there's likely some other way to go about it. I think that's my moral of this story. It's like, if there's something happening energetically, you don't like it, that there's a way for you to shift gears. And I think that's what we do. We just work on a different level with that. But that's really
Yeah.
our bottom
Good
line
point.
message, is that we're working spiritually and energetically, but that's what we're trying to do, is to shift people's experiences that might not be positive into something that is much more empowering and positive for them.
Good. Mary, Lance, final
As they said in a fairly famous movie, we are ready to believe you. Something's going on, give us a call. We will come sit and talk with you.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
what we do best.
I just want to thank everybody for watching and supporting us. Thank you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you very much. We enjoyed having you share with us our experiences on this particularly interesting case. Everybody have a good night.